जय
जय
राधा
राधा माधव
माधव
कुंज विहारी।
गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
सुदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन
यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन।
तीरावनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी।
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रमा जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रमा जय सुदर्शन जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवत में जय जगन्नाथ पतित पावन जय जगन्नाथ जय दीनबंधु जय जगन्नाथ जय करुणा सिंधु जय जगन्नाथ निताय गौरांग जय गौर हरि जय सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि नवदीप चंद्र गौर हरि कलियुग पावन गौर हरि पतित पावन गौर हरि गौर 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 हरि जय सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि कह गौरंग लह गौरंग गौरांगेर भजन मरे जय जना गौरंग भजे से हय अमर प्राण रे निताय 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 गौरंग जय गौर हरि निताय गौरंग जय गौर हरि निताय 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 गौरंग राधा माधव राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे 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 माधव राधे 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 गोविंद राधे श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन राधे राधा गिरिधरी राधे श्रीपाद जय श्रील श्रीपाद जय श्रील श्रीपाद जय जय श्रीपाद जय श्रीपाद जय गुरुदेव पतित पावन जय श्रील गुरुदेव, अधम तारण जय श्रील गुरुदेव, जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव, जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद, जय प्रभुपाद जय जगत गुरु, जय 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 प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय गुरु महाराज श्रीपाद की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत समस्त वैष्णव वैष्णवी भक्तवृंद की जय, समस्त महाराज स्वामी जी की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि। श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 7।
Shall I share, Prabhuji?
Let me see. 4.3। ततो जगाम भगवान अमोघानुग्रहो विभुः, अमोघानुग्रहो विभुः, पूजितो असुरवर्येण, पूजितो असुरवर्येण, स्तूयमानः प्रजेश्वरैः, स्तूयमानः प्रजेश्वरैः। ततो जगाम भगवान अमोघानुग्रहो विभु, पूजितो सुरवर्येण, स्तूयमानः प्रजेश्वरैः। Translation: Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, and being praised by the great sages and saintly persons. Next sloka 7.4.4. Evam labdha varo daityo, evam labdha varo daityo, vivradhemamayam vapuhu, विभ्रातधेममयं वपुः, भगवती अकरोद्द्वेषं, भगवती अकरोद्द्वेषं, भ्रातुर्वद्धम् अनुस्मरन्, भ्रातुर्वद्धम् अनुस्मरन्। Translation: The demon Hiranyakashipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma, and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother, and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A demoniac person, in spite of acquiring all opulences possible to obtain in this universe, continues to be envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Next sloka 7.4.567. सविजित्य दिशः सर्वा, सविजित्य दिशः सर्वा, लोकांश्चत्रिन्महासुरः, लोकांश्चत्रिन्महासुरः, देवासुरमनुष्येन्द्र, देवासुरमनुष्येन्द्र, गन्धर्व गरुडोरगान्, गन्धर्व गरुडोरगन्, सिद्धचारण विद्याधरन् ऋषीन् पितॄन् पतिन् मनून् यक्ष राक्षस पिशाचेशन् प्रेतभूतोपतिन् अपि सर्वसत्त्वपतिन् जित्वा वशम् अनीय विश्वजित् जहार लोकपालनम् स्थानानि सह तेजसा. Translation: Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, the great serpents, the Siddhas, Charanas, and Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamaraja, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pisachas, and their masters, and the masters of the ghosts and bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all other planets where there are living entities and put them under his control. Conquering the abodes of all, he seized their power and influence. Purport: The word Garuda in this verse indicates that there are planets of great birds like Garuda. Similarly, the word Uruga indicates that there are planets of enormous serpents. Such a descriptions of various planets of the universe may challenge modern scientists who think that all planets but this earth are vacant. The scientists claim to have launched excursions to the moon where they have found no living entities, but only big craters full of dust and stone. Although, in fact, the moon is so brilliant, it acts like the sun in illuminating the entire universe. Of course, it is not possible to convince modern scientists of the Vedic information about the universe. Nonetheless, we are not very much impressed by the words of scientists who say that all other planets are vacant and that only the earth is full of living entities. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo Shri Chaitanyam Nobhishtam Tadati Subdantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Saganitam Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopakanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vansakalpa Tarobhesya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Swarupa Damodara Swaminiti Namine Namaha Sadbhakta Manaya Manipura Udvavayacha Prabhupada Sadvani Prachara Niratayate Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So in this sloka, we read here that Hiranyakashipu was so austere. His body was almost diminishing, means almost consumed by the insects, termites. When he was doing such deep austerity, meditation, such austerity is very rarely performed. So Brahma become extremely pleased that the austerity of Hiranyakashipu is incomparable. So he is eligible to receive the benedictions he desires, although those benedictions is almost impossible to attain for a living entity. Almost impossible means there is possibility. Like austere person, like Hiranyakashipu could attain that in the scope of meditation to Brahma. So that means the other scopes are there. In the scopes of meditation or prayer to Brahma is what Hiranyakashipu could attain is limited within the universe. However, devotees, great devotees, are the worshipper of Vishnu. They can attain the charge of Brahma, which they do not ever desire. Kita janma heu jathatu yadas, bahirmukha Brahma janme nayas. That is the state of a devotee of Lord Vishnu, who never desire to become Brahma, become the master of the universe. Is not desired by your devotees. Because the real source of enjoyment is not understood by ordinary man. But a Vaishnava is never an ordinary man. He is an expert who understands the science of self-realization, who knows science of self-realization by fact. He is a Vaishnava. It's complete understanding about the truth of the material happiness. So he has very much realized Dukhalaya Asasana. No matter how much you attempt, how much you endeavor, everything turns out to be distress, and everything is temporary. So Hiranyakashipu endeavored a lot, attained almost every planet. Yet that turned out as distress when he encountered Prahlada, and during course of his enjoyment also he was so worried, fearful of his situation. Even though he has attained so much of the opulences, almost all the opulences in the material world, he has the great comfort of enjoying bodily happiness in Nandankanan, the heavenly planet of Indra. Yet he was unhappy. So that is very much confirmed that how much endeavor one can put and whatever utilities he acquires, yet he cannot be happy. So happiness is a concoction of ordinary living entity, that it can be derived from utilities. But in actuality, the constitutional positions of living entity is that it can only get indirect enjoyment. What is indirect enjoyment? By giving enjoyment to Lord, a living become happy. All other endeavor is futile. So the process of acquiring sense enjoyment that we are doing is futile because of we are excluding love in our process of living entity should surrender that senses and sense object both in the service of the Lord. Why? Because the Lord is only Bharta and a Bhokta. Lord is the maintainer who provides all facilities. No, we think that this has been provided by this and that. Brahma all the opulences to Hiranyakashipu. Actually, Brahma has had nothing to give. All this honor is really Lord Vishnu. So, actual owner, actual facilitator, actual provider is always Lord Vishnu. So only awards everything. If something awarded by master and we are not dedicating the result to that master, then we will as thief. Bhagavad Gita says, Stena eva saha. Whoever enjoys for themselves by taking the opulences or the wealth of others and disregards the provider, then he is a thief. That is stealing propensity. So how a stealing propensity can enjoy the true happiness? Cannot. So one must depend on the mercy of Lord. As prasadam sarvadukhanam hanirasya upajayati. Everything will be wholesome or holistically fulfilled. He can be really happy when he depends on the mercy of the Lord. By surrendering everything for the service of the Lord, by transforming the attraction between guna and guneshu, rather guna guneshu with the senses of Lord, with Govinda. If these sense objects being engaged in the service of the master of sense object, Govinda, the master of all the senses is Lord Govinda. So that is the process of sense enjoyment, real enjoyment, not sense enjoyment. All the senses can be nourished, fulfilled, and enlivened by the mercy of the Lord. So that is the Vaishnava culture. The Vaishnava never desire to be emperor or possessor of the opulence that do not regard Krishna consciousness or that do not engage in the service of Krishna consciousness. So he only desire those things that is fully serving Lord. It might be like kita is insect, but being insect, if it is engaged in the service of Lord, then it is the best for that living entities. That living entity can be fully happy with the mercy of Lord. So all other source of happiness, power, position, post, where ordinary living entity follow, it's all futile. has no meaning and purpose. It doesn't attain the meaning and purpose. So we can see how what are the things in this universe which is conquered by Brahma, sharing screen. So this is the entire universe. The lower point you can see is Garbhodakosai Vishnu. That is Garbhodakosai. You can see the grey color. But Vishnu is lotus tail is coming, and the same person's sukha. Then the lower planetary system. There are 20 things which we read. Then Atala Vita Sutra Tala Mahatala Sat 7 planetary system. Then above that Bhumundra. You can see this Bhumundra till sun is the in 11th verse, you can see there are 7 islands. So these 7 islands is drawn by Bhagavatam's chariot. So why islands? So is there water here? The Chaitanya Charitamrita says this is space, the entire universe. So a land inside water is called island. So similarly, space inside the space, which is referred, which is like water. So the lands are called deeps. So you can see the 7 islands are there. So among them, one is the Mudipa. You can see this, and then what is the diameter of this 7 deeper 300 billion miles or 500 million yojan. So 500 million yojan is equal to 400 billion miles. So that is the diameter. You can see it is in the center portion. That is also the diameter is also you can see it a globe center portion is 7 island there. So that will be also 400 billion miles, 400 billion miles or 500 million. So here this entire 7 was conquered.
Krishna Prabhuji. Voice is breaking a little bit.
Okay, let me.
Alright, you can send me the link.
Is it
I can
better
share.
now?
Yeah,
Is it better?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Okay. So, all these locals were actually came under control of Hiranyakashipu. So this, yet he could not approach further higher planets. Those accessible.
Send me the link. I
Similarly,
can
there
share,
are
Prabhuji. It is creating a disturbance.
okay. I'm audible now.
Yeah, Prabhuji, little bit manageable.
Okay, running on mobile network might not be very good here. Okay. So this way, whatever endeavor one puts to conquer all these universes, all these places, yet there is insufficiency in reaching some of the places. Like Satyalva, even though he could go to Brahmapuri, which was above Mount Meru. Above Mount Meru, there is Brahmapuri. There is Lokopalas, 8 Lokopalas. And in the side of that, Brahmapuri is Bhuvar Loka, Vidyadhar Loka, Siddhas Loka, Gandharvas Loka. He could conquer up to this. But Maharloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka, these are for great rishis who can go there, others cannot. And Satyaloka is unapproachable. So above this locus, the entire universe is covered by 7 layers. What are they? Earth, water, air, fire, ether, and then 24 element called Mahatattva, and then false ego. So these are the 7 layers where he cannot surpass or where he cannot enter. So only a living entity who is Vaishnava, great devotee of Lord, can go there, can cross that and surpass that, can enter into the abode of Lord. Can see Mahavishnu, which you can read in Srimad Bhagavatam, how Arjuna could go there to save the son of Ravana. I think in this connection, what is the use of putting so much endeavor in acquiring these universes, where it ends with nothing? Neither it could give some pleasure, nor it could give a sustaining control over anything. Whatever one can gain in this world, whatever control one can gain, is sure to end. And also that even due course them. So what to speak after such endeavor, such severe austerity one has done? If one could do a very little service to Lord, Lord become extremely pleased. Within your capability, you can do small sort of austerities like Ekadasi. You can just save yourself from this unwanted food, like food that is not offered to Lord. And one should be free progress. So that is the obstructions in all progress. If one loses that, if after taking up Krishna consciousness, one is becoming envious to devotees, doing offense to devotees, then his progress is checked. Because offense to devotee who is not devotees, so it's directly blaspheming Lord. Even Lord become more displeased if his devotee is uh, displeased. Because Sadhavana Hrudayam Mohyam, Lord resides within the heart of that the devotee, and that devotee is directly representing Lord. So if somebody become envious to devotees, his progress is checked. So when devotee become careless of this act, or become bewildered by some false vestiges which is acquired, so he can dare to offend a devotee or become envious to devotee. So that point must be taken care by a devotee. So why there is lack of rapid progress is the fact that he has been loosened to this philosophy of non-enviousness, which is very, very important. If one is sufficiently care about to be non-envious to Lord, so he can directly envious to Lord or indirectly envious to Lord by becoming envious to devotees. That was the problem of Hiranyakashipu. He was envious to Lord because of some reason. So no reason should be there to become envious of the Lord. Lord only do the best of every living entities. Hiranyaksha was saved from his miscreants and he was awarded his positions. He was being freed from his sinful reactions and he was awarded a next life. Then he could go back to his original positions after finishing his responsibility. Yeah. So among them, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, then Sisupala, Dantavaka. That is the three lives they had to suffer. So Lord only killed them for their benefit. So Lord, whatever Lord Vishnu do, only for the benefit of living entity. Not only for that living entity, benefit for all living entity. It never goes against any living entity. So benefit means the ultimate happiness. That ultimate happiness is misunderstood by people. So they also misunderstand Lord. So they become envious. One must approach an expert authority who can explain the science. Then he should understand that, receive that, and practice that. So all these mundane concoctions of Lord is doing this and that, Lord is not doing good for this and that, is the source of his material suffering. Is the very reason that he is not freed from the enviousness to Lord. Thank you very much. Any question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for Nice class. There was a little disturbance, even though it was okay, I guess, to the audience. Yeah, if anyone is having any question regarding today's class, they can raise the hand and ask His Grace Akral Parmanand Guru. Hare Krishna, Govind Maharaj, please.
Hare Krishna. So you, Hare Krishna, Akrat Prabhu. So you concluded your speech by saying that Hiranyakashipu continued being envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in spite of getting all these benedictions, and for him, this completely presumed that he has become immortal. What is there to envy? If one thinks that he has become immortal, then I think there's nobody to envy. Means everybody wants eternal life and experience. Then, so what is the reason? Why he's envious? In spite of getting everything he wanted as benedictions. Could you?
Yes, Maharaj. So why he is envious to Lord even though he has attained everything? That is the question, Maharaj. Okay. So he, by his nature, was envious. So his consciousness was envious. And his goal was to defeat Vishnu. He has never left this consciousness of enviousness to Lord Vishnu, even though he has performed so much of the austerity. He has austerity actually purifies. So, but it cannot purify the consciousness to be pure goodness. It has purified some of his, of his activities that consciousness. However, it could not purify its original thought being envious to Lord. His brother being by Lord Vishnu so envious that he would defeat Vishnu. So that when he regained his body, so he is all this good development of consciousness is again overpowered by false ego. The false ego, it was like the seed, even though is very much dried. If it is full like the seed can germinate, one need to rust to like fasting or like full fry germinate again. So that is Krishna consciousness. Even though one can negate the demoniac qualities by performing austerities, but whenever again it gets suitable conditions, it germinates again. So that is the conditions of the Hiranyakashipu. Even though he has done so much of the austerities, his original consciousness was in seed form. His envious was so strong. So when it got a very powerful body, strong body again, then he remained in his consciousness of being envious to Lord. And he wanted to replace Lord Vishnu. He wanted to even conquer the Svetadipa, the abode of Lord Vishnu. So that is the things. I think he can explain what exactly you wanted. I'm not sure.
Well, that's wonderful. The thing is that in spite of getting, he thinks he has assumed that he got everything and he has become the greatest or the most powerful person.
Maharaj,
So
maybe I want a chance.
go ahead.
Yes, Maharaj, because under your purview or oversight, I want to try whatever Prabhuji has already expressed a little bit more. Because after you answer, I will not have anything to say. He will cover everything. Though it is same, we can repeat again, no problem. But as a childish enthusiasm. Hare Krishna.
No. I want to hear that.
So, our Hiranyakashipu, though he, first of all, he did not get what he wanted. He wanted immortality. He did not get immortality. He only got some backdoor or some intelligent puzzle he put to Brahmaji, which he think some kind of immortality is guaranteed, but it is still not guaranteed. And so he has some kind of fear is there that he may be immortal at some, though he is confident at sometimes he may be still thinking he may not be immortal. Number two, his revenge is not yet achieved. That he wanted to kill Lord Vishnu. So that goal, that mission is not fulfilled. So he remains dissatisfied and envious. And number three, whoever is envious of the Lord, he will never be able to fulfill his enviousness. Because natat samasya adhikasya drishyate. So general tendency is to how one fulfills one's envious tendency is by becoming better than somebody, or at least become equal and say, okay, I am also equal, same. But in the case of Vishnu, nobody can become equal or greater than Vishnu. So therefore, his enviousness is never going to be fulfilled. And finally, only way to overcome enviousness to the Lord is by becoming a devotee of the Lord. Otherwise, there is no way one can avoid becoming envious to the Lord. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranama.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's the reality of Hiranyakashipu. But his enviousness, it is out of fear. Fear is the cause. And what is the fear cause? Because he is not situated in his Swarupa. Because he is not situated in Swarupa. Now the two things have happened in his life. He has assumed and presumed only. When somebody assumes immortality, that he has become immortal, and then presumes. So these two words are very interesting in English. How to describe in Sanskrit or Hindi? But so one when one assumes, it's assuming means some kind of pretension. It's like it's not natural. one is assumed. And as a result of it, then he dares, then he is presumed that who can stand in my way. But as a reality, the concept of the Supreme or Vishnu still lingers in his mind that yes, if Vishnu killed his brother, it is possible that he can also be killed. So this unnatural state, as you said, Maharaj, that nobody is equal to him, nobody is superior to him. So that in spite of his presuming, daring, presumptuous, that who can stand in front of me, and but that assumption is artificial, and that is causing his fear, and just to justify or just to cover his fear, he is envious. You know, when we try to cover our fear, hide our fear, assuming what we are not, you know, and this envy gives a guard. It's very psychological thing, you know. He assumed that he is all in all, but it's not real. No? He's not the Supreme. It's a very deliberate on his part. It's unfounded, because when Lord Brahma himself says that, well, you cannot be mortal. So although he just maneuvered through his so-called intelligence to safeguard his life and protect, but it's natural for the living entity, because when he is not in his natural state of his reality, when he is not sheltered under the Supreme, then that fear factor will be lingering. And that fear is the only cause which makes him envious of the possibility that Vishnu may also kill him. Something like that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Yes, our Shamchandra Prabhu is having a question. Shamchandra Prabhu, please.
Wonderful discussion. Hare Krishna to all. Jai Shila Sripad Maharaj, Jai Shila Prabhupada. I'm really relishing the replies given by His Holiness Prajapati Swami and also His Holiness Govind Maharaj. Just if you permit, I would just want to add some comment here. See, let us see at the starting point. Because the starting point is always essential to establish where we end. The starting point here was Hiranyakashipu actually thought that his brother Hiranyaksha would be handful, is very powerful, would be handful for anybody. Nobody can defeat him. So when Vishnu killed Hiranyaksha, that was the first shock for Hiranyakashipu. Oh, there is somebody who is more powerful than my brother, and then I have to teach him a lesson. So that is the starting point, and for which the entire tapasya was done. So after doing the tapasya, he physically got everything what he wanted. So the starting point was the enviousness started because somebody is more powerful than my brother. Now I must teach him a lesson. And the whole thing has unfolded into this situation where He has achieved what he wanted in terms of the prerequisites. So now it is only the prerequisites have come. The ultimate goal for him was to show to everyone that I am more powerful than Vishnu. I can defeat Vishnu. So that point is still lingering in his mind. That's why this whole thing has come. So it is not that the means, I mean, the final result is still achieved. He has achieved maybe the process, but the final result for him is only to kill Vishnu. And I am not sure here up to this point whether he is fearful of Vishnu. What I feel here is that he is actually overconfident and he wants to prove his point that yes, now I've got everything and I'm going to kill Vishnu. So this enviousness can also come when somebody, you know, whom you feel is like in this case he felt his brother is also quite powerful, but his brother has been defeated. That means that person I must somehow kill now. So that is a starting point, and now he's waiting for the end result to complete. This is what I wanted to add. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
that is apparent. That is apparent, but his situation, his assumption and his presumption, they are not natural, na? The cause of fear ultimately is because he is not sheltered. One becomes fearless when one becomes sheltered by the supreme protection, supreme shelter, Krishna.
But
And,
Maharaj, in this
because
case, he feels that he himself is supreme. The
yeah, but
problem
that is his assumption and presumption only, na? The fear factor remains when one is not naturally sheltered under supreme protection. He is very ambitious to do what he wants to do, and he wants to become fearless, but the fear will remain. We are not thinking of Hiranyakashipu other than any living entity. You know, he's one of the living entity. So the living entity, when he is not sheltered by bhayam dvitiya bhi niveshata shat ishad apetasya viparyayo asmriti. He has forgotten the supreme position of Vishnu, and even if he is assuming and presuming to be the supreme or anything, it will cause fear. His abhinivesh, his absorption or self-obsession is so strong, and that will continue his fear factor. And he has to have that horrible motive to undo Vishnu, you know. So the fear factor in the living entity is because, so that's why in the material world also, no matter how powerful a person becomes and everywhere he wants to rule and everything, and anything he thinks that in his way or anything can disrupt his ambition, then he, due to that fear that somebody may challenge him, he becomes envious. So fear is the factor which makes him envious, because he is not sheltered. The living entity, when he is not sheltered by under the supreme protection or supreme, then all his tendencies and his anxieties and desire to become greater and greater and more powerful, most powerful, but he can. So even these desires, they are also artificial. Just by desiring to be most powerful, one does not become most powerful, correct? As Maharaj said that the supreme position is held by Krishna unretiredly, and Krishna does not retire from that position, possessing those the supreme position. So anybody who tries to become supreme or greater than supreme, fear will haunt him. And to cover that fear, he is justifying whatever thoughts he has, whatever actions he is planning and everything. So fear, that shloka, the most mysterious shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because as far as our sadhana, as sadhaka is concerned, you know, how one becomes distracted, how fear takes over all of us when we are not situated in absorption or in sheltered by Krishna. When we accept any shelter other than Krishna, fear will hold us, and fear will cause envy and defy. We cannot stand the glory of someone else. What is ultimately the definition of envy? Parotkarsha asahanam matsaryam. He cannot stand, he simply cannot stand the glory of Krishna. If he is the Supreme, as he has assumed and presumed, Supreme doesn't have to fear anyone, correct?
Yeah.
But merely assumption means pretension. He knows, the living entity knows in the core of one's heart, hey, I'm just assuming this position and I'm presuming I'm daring because of my madness. So this assumption and presumption, not based on reality, this causes the fear. And in order to cover his fear, he has to have this ambition. Yes, I will finish Vishnu. Like this. So fear is the thing which haunts, which takes over the living entity when he is not sheltered by the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ramchandra. This Krodha, Moha and Bhaya is the representation of the false thing. Krodha, Moha. The foundations of Hiranyakashipu was when he knew that his brother was being killed. The foundation was so much of the fear. So that is coming go of Hiranyakashipu. That can never go than devotion to Vishnu, which he was not doing. So that, I mean, no matter whatever endeavor. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other question? Or we can conclude?
We can conclude for the day.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Jai Guru Maharaj Prasipad ki, Jai
Jai.
Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
all Das Maharajas, Jai, all
Jai.
Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis.
Jai.
Jai Guru Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
His Grace Akrad Paramanand Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai, Jai, Jai.
Thank you all for joining. See you all in tomorrow's class. Hare Krishna.
Where is our Srikant Prabhu?
He was there, Maharaj.
He's not speaking today.
Maybe some health issue.
I see. Okay.